A very good evening. It's time for Markets Today, where we examine and evaluate the stock market. That way you as an investor or a trader can make informed decisions when it comes to buying or selling your shares. And today we jump straight into the interview session, where we'll also be perusing through the stories that are making headlines in the world of business. With me in studio is Mr. Robert Yawe, who's a corporate mentor and a frequent on Metropole TV. A very good evening to you.
Thank you.
All right. So we'll commence with today's closing numbers, and of course we'll start off by taking a look at the gainers. Topmost gainer today is car in general, that the car in market price closes at 23 shillings and 10 cents with a gain of 10%, followed by Samia Africa that has seen a gain of 9.59% with a closing current market price of 3 shillings and 20 cents. Stanley Fahari Income is also top gainer with a gain of 8.35%. The closing price currently is 9 shillings and 60 cents. We also have the WPP Scan Group with a gain of 7.62% and with a closing price of 12 shillings. And finally, our last top 5 gainer is Equity Group Holdings that has seen an upgrade of 6.57%, closing at 39 shillings and 75 cents. Now, quickly moving into the losers, we have Everready East Africa that has seen a downgrade of 6.25%, closing at 90 cents, and Olympia Capital Holdings has downgraded by 4.76%, closing at 2 shillings and 20 cents. I&M Holdings dropped by 3.45%. and closing at 56 shillings. Longhorn Publishers also saw a drop of 3.27%, closing at 6 shillings and 50 cents. And we have the Nairobi Business Ventures as the last loser that we'll be taking a look at this evening, with a drop of 2.17%, closing at 90 cents. Very quickly, let's look at the movers as well. We have Safaricom that has traded 17 million shares, followed by Cooperative Bank of Kenya trading 6.2 million shares. KCB has traded 2.7 million shares, followed by KPLC, the Kenya Power and Lightning, that has traded 1.6 million shares, and the Mumias Sugar Company that has traded 721,700 shares. Now, Mr. Yawe, I'd like us to start off with the gainers. What exactly has caught your eye when you look at the gainers at the closing bell this evening?
I think Kind General and Firestone will be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And it's quite possible these two could be because of announcements to reduce the age of second-hand cars that can be imported.
Mm-hmm.
That means if we reduce the number of second-hand cars, which means Kind General gets to benefit because they actually do a bit of local content, and then Firestone also because of tires, which again, the problem I think at the port means it's giving Firestone an opportunity to sell more locally manufactured tires.
All right. Now moving on to our losers this evening. I&M Holdings has been on a downward trend for quite some time. What would you say ascribes to this trend?
Interestingly, I&M had a one-to-one bonus issue a while back. So it's possible that now that it has gone, I think they started trading today or yesterday. So that could explain why there seems to be a drop. Yes.
All right. And what about Everready East Africa? It seems for the first 1 month, it seems as though it's on a stagnated move.
Yes.
That is slightly going down, but it's more of stagnated than going down. Why are we seeing this move, and it doesn't look like it's going to change anytime soon?
Everready is a very interesting share because every time we hear of Everready, it's usually a bit negative. But I suspect a lot of people trying to test to get into the stock market are playing around with Everready, and you'll notice Mumias as well, which are the sub 1 shilling shares, is also seeing a lot of activity. With 1,000 shillings, it means you can now play the stock market.
All right. Yes. I want to go back to the gainers, and I'm so sorry for taking you back and forth. Let's go back to WPP Scan Group.
Yes.
It's also on a downward trend.
Yes.
If you look at the graph, it's also been on a downward trend for quite some time. But it's one of the gainers this on today's closing bell, and it's gained by 7.60%, resting at 12 shillings. What are we to read from this particular company?
Scan Group is an interesting share because many people don't understand really what Scan Group does. They're mainly an advertising and player. So they do well when other listed companies that do a lot of marketing, Safaricom and the Unilevers and the rest, are doing well. But here it seems like the drop was soon after an announcement. They closed their books, and as usual, most people exit immediately after book closure because they know they'll enjoy the dividend when it comes through. Yes, so that could explain why there's been a drop from the 14th of this month, and that was a sudden drop, and actually you're now seeing it recovering slightly, which means new entrants who are looking more at the long term than the speculative traders.
All right. Now, looking into the movers, and if there's one thing that has caught my eye when it comes to the movers at today's closing bell or any other closing bell, is of course we'll always have the banking institutions leading the way. Like in today's movers, we apart from Safaricom that traded about 17 million shares, we also have the Cooperative Bank and the KCB. Cooperative Bank traded 6 million shares, while KCB traded 2.8 million shares. Now, regardless the fact that they may be trading a lot of shares, the banking institutions, and not only Coop Bank or KCB, have also seen a fall when it comes to raising their profits or even their trading. Why is this?
Coop and KCB could be because of the new product that the government is doing, the 9% loans for SMEs, which will actually be channeled through Coop Bank and KCB, as well as 3 other banks. So that could create a level of confidence in the market that they are likely to do better in their profitability towards the end of the year.
All right. Yes. Well, that is something interesting to be looking at. All right. Now, onto the NSE 20 share index that saw an upgrade of 0.08% and closing at 2,650.30 points. And we have the NSE 25 share index that also saw an upgrade of 1.81%, closing at 3,624.89 points. And the NSE all share index also saw an increment of 2.96% and closing at 151.77 points. Regardless the upgrade that we're seeing in all the indices, if you take a look at the graph, they're also on a decline. Why is this? If we could just kindly explain.
So, the problem we have is we have about 5 or 10 counters which really determine the market. And at this particular point, most of it was the banks. And soon after they had released their final results and closed their books for dividend, what usually happens is there's always a drop. And that's why you'll notice since about the 14th of this month, all the indices have been going down. And they've just started picking up the last few days. Yes.
All right. Now, I'd like us to shift gears to the international markets, where the Asian and the European stocks sunk today. Now, just to take you through and to bring our viewers up to speed, in Tokyo they sank by 1.2%. In Sydney markets they slipped by 0.7%. Hong Kong 0.5%. And moving on to Europe, London stocks fell by 0.7%. Frankfurt shed by 1%, and Paris fell by 1.2%. Now, what could be the different reasons causing the fall?
The Asian markets is the fight going on between China and America. And the New York markets seem to have penalized the Chinese markets, and it's clear. So clearly we're at war. There's a war going on here between the 2 largest companies, the 2 countries, China and the US. For the European ones, I suspect that tells us a lot about the power of the of Britain. We know May has said she's going to step down, which means Britain will now have a very interesting time as they try to maneuver through Brexit, and at the same time the appointment of a new Prime Minister. So the two are definitely having a major impact on the European stock markets.
All right. Now, you mentioned the US-China war.
Yes.
So the US-China trade war continues. And the U.S. company, the U.S. Has restricted all companies from doing business with Huawei unless they have a contract. Now, there was a statement from the privately owned entity, which is Huawei, saying that, and I quote, by preventing American companies from doing business with Huawei, the government will directly harm more than 1,200 companies and thousands of jobs in America. Now, could you kindly expound on what exactly this means, Robert?
I think what we've moved to now is war is no longer about guns. I think it's now economic. Huawei stands really as a true sign of China's strength. With the 5G, with the fact that they will launch 5G before anybody else. And what's going to happen with this and why Huawei are warning is because they know 2/3 of their products are actually manufactured or they have patents with US companies.
What effect do they have on the US economy?
The US is a highly knowledge-based economy.
All right.
China is mainly a product-driven economy. So most of their products take IP from American companies. So if they stop doing business with China, then American companies will definitely suffer because they're not really producers of physical products. They're mainly producers of knowledge and knowledge-based products.
All right. So what is the future of Huawei, even as it stands as the second largest smartphone maker in the world?
From my personal opinion, I don't think America is that much of a major market anymore. Asia is growing extremely fast. You're looking at a population growth rate of almost 4%. Africa is at a higher population growth rate in terms of population, but also in terms of uptake. The uptake of technology in Africa and Asia outstrips the potential in the US. The US markets are maturing and will start stagnating. And it's not only Huawei who are feeling this. Even Apple has been seeing the same impact. Yes, it's because there's not much. And unfortunately, Apple ignored the African market, but at least they're now trying to take advantage of the European market. So based on that, I think Huawei is at a strength position because we will be able to do 5G faster now if the Americans continue the war.
And I was just about to get into that. There's a lot of talk that there's more to Huawei's suffering apart from the US-China trade war. Rumor has it that it's all about the 5G network between Huawei and the Apple company. So what are your sentiments in this?
To me, for a long time, Africa and Asia played catch-up. With 5G, Africa and Asia will lead because there's one partner. There's no question. Africa's 5G is going Huawei. Our 4G is already mainly Huawei. So definitely we are going Huawei for 5G. So I don't see much of a competition. This is just, for me, America's kicks of a dying horse. Their relevance in the mobile business is about to come to an end.
Wow. So Huawei has got nothing to worry about?
Nothing. To me, the American companies have something to worry about. The Googles of this world have a bigger thing to worry about than Huawei.
All right. Now, I'd like us to come back to the country and bring the conversation back to Kenya. So, Dr. Patrick Njoroge's tenure as the central bank's governor is almost coming to an end. He took up the position in June 2015, to be precise, the 26th of June 2015. And his 4-year term is to end on the 19th of June 2019, which is practically next month. Now, looking into his 4-year journey, Just a year and a half ago, a year and a half into his journey, he almost faced prosecution for running the central bank without a board of directors. So what exactly was going on there, considering you need board of directors for policy creation?
If you get a governor into office who has a board that doesn't really align with him, then he'll become a dead duck governor. And I think that's what caused the delay, because I believe he put his foot down on who he wanted sitting on the board. He did not want to be given sycophants. He wanted people who could actually bring government to account when he needed them to.
All right, so with that said, let's backtrack just a bit and look at the role of our CBK governor.
He's responsible for really making sure that the economy works. With government, our exchange rates are stable. The other day, you remember the World Bank was complaining that the Kenya shilling should be exchanging at 120 to the dollar. And they actually accused the governor of controlling and managing the exchange rate.
Yes, I remember. We actually had this conversation on
yes,
phone. Yeah.
and he denied it. He said basically it's all about balance of trade.
Yeah.
If we're trading less with America and with the dollar, then definitely our shilling will get stronger. Yes. But more importantly, I think we need to remember that the governor came from the World Bank. So in other words, we have an insider on our side. So we have an insider on our side. So, and which is why I suspect he's been given a second term. Seems like a foregone conclusion.
So he does deserve a second term.
I think we can't complain.
We cannot complain.
Yes.
All right. Now, lastly, the government has awarded 25 billion shillings worth of tenders to the youth, women, and people living with disability. And this is 25 billion shillings since 2013. It's just 10% of the initial 250 billion set for these groups, the three groups, yeah? Women, the youth, and the people with disability. And let's remember, the youth captures most of the population. Now, how paramount is it to have the three groups in business, and what participation would they have in bettering the economy?
I believe what went wrong with that whole process was how they allocated tenders specifically to those three groups. If you look at most tenders, it was for flowers, for supplying of low-end, non-high-value services and products. And I think that was wrong. What we needed to do was to create an enabling environment to allow them to move up to more higher value delivery of services. And to me, we once had a program to train the youth on maintenance of roads, in especially the rural roads and the rest. I don't know why that died. That would have allowed us to get much higher, much higher value of what would have been given to those particular three groups. Yes, but we need to rethink how the tenders allocated to them are actually structured. Yes.
All right. So that is the best advice moving forward. And thank you so much. That was Mr. Robert Yawe, who is a corporate mentor and has taken us through the topics that are making headlines in the world of business today. My name is Nina Shaban. It's unfortunate that I wasn't able to give you the news, but worry not. At exactly 7 p.m., I'll be coming to you live from the studio, bringing to you the news and fully updated. So as for now, I leave you with the agro commodities, but don't go anywhere. Metropole TV has a lot of business programming lined up for you. So enjoy the rest of your evening until 7 p.m. when I'll see you again.